Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. I want to welcome you to Back to Work and Pumping, hosted by Motherhood Uncovered. We are so excited to have you here with us on our second hosted event. First, I would like to take a quick minute to let you know what Motherhood Uncovered is and who the people are behind it. I'm Nicole Zollner, founder and president of NizAware Nursing Bras, and I've joined forces with the wonderful Sarah Wells from Sarah Wells Bags to form this collaboration. Our mutual goal is to connect new and expectant moms with experts that can share straightforward and helpful information regarding all topics motherhood. We aim to cover a wide range of topics in this series that mom wants to talk about but may not always hear about, or sometimes may not even know what to ask about. Since both Sarah and I are mothers ourselves, we've been in this new motherhood phase of our lives before, which gives us a great basis for these topics. But we are ultimately doing this for all of you, so please post your comments or questions below, and we would love to hear from you. And while we do have personal experience with this whole motherhood thing, we are not experts on the topic. So we have hand-selected the very best in their fields to interview for you so you can get the most accurate and up-to-date information. We really hope you enjoyed today's topic, and if you missed our last presentation on Breastfeeding 101, you can take a look at that on our website, motherhooduncovered.com. I want to quickly give you the format of today's event. You will briefly hear a little bit about both Sarah and I. I will go over the details of the webinar. Next, I will have a special mompreneur talk for a couple minutes about her unique air-free bottles and who is generously offering an amazing gift to one lucky viewer. Finally, our expert will be speaking about the important topic of breast pumping and going back to work. We definitely are going to try to keep this moving because we respect your time. To give you a little bit of more information about myself, I'm going to switch to my camera. Hopefully you can all see me. Hello. As I stated before, I'm the founder and president of NizAware Nursing Bras, the only patented nursing bra with a pocket and a pull-down flap. Our pockets hold removable molded pads. They provide moms with a little bit of lining when they want it, to cover up the nipples or nursing pads or light leaks, and to provide you great shape. But then you have the ability to take them out when you don't. The pocket can also hold a warm or cool pack that safely provides relief from breastfeeding discomfort that you might encounter. The idea for NizAware came from my personal experience breastfeeding my son. For me, it was painful in the beginning, and I know it can be for some women as well. So I set out to provide mothers with a nursing bra that could do it all, to not only make a comfortable nursing bra, but to make the one that gives mom the most options. And while I was at it, I wanted to make it pretty too. To hear more about our story or to check out our products, go to our website at nizaware.com. Now I want to introduce my Motherhood Uncovered co-founder, Sarah Wells.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I'm really excited for this one. As you might suspect, since I am a small business owner offering stylish breast pump bags, the topic of back to work and breast pumping is one that I'm really excited to hear about today. My idea for a stylish breast pump bag that's also uber functional came to me after my disappointment returning to work and not really having a great alternative to carry all that gear, the pump, the accessories, my purse items. I actually felt a little bit like a pack mule walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. and wanted a better option. And so after talking with other moms who said the same thing, I designed and launched my small business last November, and it's been really exciting. In fact, this has been a really exciting week for me. We were actually featured in Pregnancy and Newborn magazine just this past week. So really excited about that. If you're interested in learning more about Sarah Wells breast pump bags, you can check them out at sarahwellsbags.com. Thanks so much, Nicole.
You are welcome. All right, everyone. I just want to get a few housekeeping things out of the way. First, you can ask questions by leaving comments on the YouTube page below, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to attempt to address them during and after the presentation, but if we run out of time, just check back with us because we will definitely get to all your questions when we can. Feel free to email questions to Sarah or I directly, and our emails are right there in front of you. Lastly, this video webinar will be forever archived in the same link that we sent to you, so you can rewatch, share with friends, or embed in your blog and website. And I should mention here, I touched a little bit on the special giveaway that we're doing, and to get more entries into that, registering is one way that you did it, but you can also share the link like I mentioned here. So to move on to our more details about this very special treat, As some of you may know, we are doing a drawing. We're going to finish the drawing on Friday, May 9th, because some of you may be watching this after the fact. We realize that not everyone can meet with us at this time. So enter to win a twin pack of the 8-ounce Bear bottles from Lab, which is a unique bottle that helps promote breastfeeding and decreases baby's gas. The idea for Bear air-free bottles came to the founder, Priska, who you're going to hear from in a second, one sleepless night when she realized that her breasts don't have air vents. So why should baby bottles? She developed a new device that would not only look like the breast, but function like one, and more importantly, dispense air-free milk. You also have a chance to win a gorgeous $45 gift certificate for our very own Sarah Wells bags. You have 4 ways to enter, like I said before, and do so by Friday, May 9th at 11:59. Next, you can either like or share Sarah Wells Bags or Nizawar's Facebook post. I think both of us have recently posted about this, and that will get you more entries. All right, so since you've already heard from Sarah about her amazing bags, we'd like to introduce to you to our guest mompreneur for today, the founder and CEO of Lab, Priska Diaz. Thank you so much for joining us, Priska, and giving everyone a chance to win.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. And today I want to introduce my product, and much like all the other moms who just introduced, it came from an issue that I was having with my baby. I wanted to breastfeed him, and I couldn't breastfeed him because I had a very low milk supply, and therefore I was forced to introduce baby bottles. The second that happened, my baby got very gassy. I saw him that he started to reject my breast sort of a way. In an effort to try to fix and find out what was happening, I learned all about nipple confusion. I learned all about why babies do get gas and why do they swallow so much air while they're feeding. And I had to go out and look for something that could feed my baby milk without any air. And then after realizing that there isn't anything out there, pretty much every baby bottle has an air vent that actually introduces air into the bottle, and as the baby feeds, then he ingests the air at the same time, and that's why they get gas. So I invented this baby bottle that actually works like a syringe. It's the Bear Air-Free baby bottle, and it comes in 2 sizes, 8-ounce and 4-ounce. And what I wanted to show you quickly is how it actually works. This is the piece that works like a syringe. It actually moves as the baby drinks and ingests the milk. So you fit this over the area, and then this is the foot. You fit it over the bottle as well. You put your water or milk or juices, breast milk, anything you want to put on the bottle, and close it, and then you can expel the air pretty much like a syringe, so that the milk, it's always contained in an air-free environment. And I actually have a breast pump with me, and I wanted to show you how it actually moves at the same time as how the nipple works, because the nipple have been also specially designed for breastfed babies. So here we go. I don't know if you can see it. So see, the nipple extends at the same time as this piece actually moves as the baby drinks. And so what that does is, keeps the space that the milk is being drawn out doesn't get filled with air, but it actually gets smaller and smaller because this piece moves up. So as I said, we have it in 2 sizes, 4 ounces and 8 ounces, and you can find more information and also order it from online at bidylab.com. And the bottles are called Bear Air-Free baby bottles.
Thank you, Priska. That was amazing. And here's just a quick shot for all of you people watching, a little bit more about her information and her website. So go check her out. I think that's the most unique thing I've ever seen, and I think it's a great idea. So thank you, Priska.
Sure.
All right, now we are going to have Sarah introduce our guest speaker.
Great, thanks so much. That was really cool. Thanks, Priska. I hadn't seen them in action, so I enjoyed that.
Sure.
So as I mentioned today, we're covering a really important topic. back to work and breast pumping. And, you know, as working moms, when returning to an office, for most moms, you're not able to take your baby with you. It would be very cool if you had that opportunity, but for most moms, if they want to continue to try to breastfeed and achieve their breastfeeding goals, it typically involves some level of breast pumping when they return back to the office. And I know for me personally, going back to work, there were so many things to think about. You know, you're a new mom, and then you're trying to introduce the working environment. There's all this stuff you have to think about, childcare, and you're still working on postpartum recovery. So finding the right breast pump, figuring out how to make that transition from feeding on the breast to doing the pumping, worrying about supply, oh my gosh, it can be really overwhelming. So I'm really excited that we have really one of the best experts here to talk to you about how to make that transition successfully, how to get the right pump, as well as some hot new topics around insurance and pumps. And I think Michelle is going to give us all, I think, that boost of confidence that we need to know how to navigate what can be a difficult and challenging time returning back to work after leave. Let me read a little bit about Michelle. Michelle Schlieben joined the team of Lehan's Drugs, or Lehan's Pharmacy, in June of 2012. Michelle's passion for ensuring that her own children get the best care and her desire to help others has led her to become a certified lactation specialist. Michelle has helped to grow the breast pump business for Lehan's and has also helped to bring in new products for breastfeeding moms. Michelle also works in home medical, assisting patients with a variety of durable medical equipment. And when not at work, Michelle enjoys her full-time job as wife and mommy to Parker and Mia. And I have personally had the pleasure of spending a full day with Michelle at MommyCon Chicago, and I know that she's not only incredibly knowledgeable on this topic, but just an all-around really wonderful person. So we're very lucky to have you here today, and Michelle, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited to share the information that I have for you today. You know, the first thing is breast pumps. Where do we go to find a breast pump? What type of breast pump do we get? Lots of questions in regards to that. And I think the first thing is, you know, you have to do your research. Not all pumps are the same. You have multiple and a variety of pumps, different brands, and not all of them meet up to the standards that they should. You know, at Lehan's we sell Medela, Amida, and Hygia pumps, and I highly recommend those pumps because they are quality. They've been around for years, and they also are just overall there's less problems with those pumps. I think the main thing is you know, you have to choose a pump that fits your need. And I think that also comes into play. A lot of places try to sell you the most expensive pump, and not always is that the pump that you need for you and baby. So trying to figure out, are you going back to work? Are you staying at home? What exactly do you need? And then making sure that you're choosing what you need and not just, you know, a $400 pump that you may be able to get by with a $200 pump. I think the next thing is, you know, did you know that most insurance covers pumps? And that's a common question that I get on a daily basis is, you know, I have moms come and say, I just bought a $400 pump. I didn't know it was covered by insurance. How, you know, what is the process? What do I do? And how do I get my pump covered? And in the next slide, you're going to be able to see how Lehan's kind of walks moms through this process. So you can either call insurance on your own and verify coverage on your end, or you can have a DME provider check coverage for you, therefore eliminating some of the extra work you have to do as mom, because we all know you're busy. And then you know, go from there as far as which pump do I choose, and sometimes DME providers will have a lactation specialist on site, like Lehan's does, and they can kind of walk you through some of the questions you may have. So in the next slide, I'll kind of show you what our process is, and then we'll go through, you know, the breast pump insurance form and how Lehan's kind of does that. And what normally happens is we have you fill a form out online, and from there, we check your coverage, and then we kind of go off of that. So the next thing is tips on pumping, and I guess we didn't show you the previous slide, and I don't know. Sarah, can you get the slide back? Previous slide. Okay, so this is, if you go to our website online, in the upper right-hand corner is just breast pump insurance form, and basically what we're going to ask for is just your insurance information, and we would verify your insurance coverage, and then within 24 to 48 hours, we would give you an email stating kind of what your coverage is, and then give you a list of pumps that would be covered, or, you know, sometimes you may have upgrade costs depending on your insurance. But the majority of insurances do cover. Blue Cross Blue Shield covers about $150, and the important thing with insurance coverage is when you are talking to insurance, they're going to say a pump is covered 100%. when you discuss that with them, you need to make sure that it's not just 100%, but it's actually 100% of the allowable amount. So don't get confused when someone tells you that it's going to be covered 100%, because it may be that it's just 100% of the allowable, and the allowable is just agreed upon amount that insurance and the provider have. So, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield usually covers $150. So anything above and beyond that amount, you would be responsible for. So that's just kind of a little information and a little hindsight behind actually getting your insurance coverage information. And then in the next slide, for tips on pumping, this is, I think, the most important thing. I think we all kind of expect, we got to pump right away, and how often do I pump, and there's lots of questions involving with pumping, and even though it sounds like a pretty simple thing, there's actually a lot involved. So I'm going to talk about first how to start pumping and kind of the process of that. So in the beginning, most pumps have a suction control as well as a strength control, and most importantly, you want to mimic the baby when you're pumping. So you're going to start with high speed on your pump. A Medela pump automatically has a high speed, and it slowly reduces to the low speed. But some pumps like Hygieia and Amida, it's manual. So you want to do high speed at first, and then as you continue to pump, you're going to reduce your speed. So just like a baby starts out with fast suckles, you're going to turn the speed high. After you have your letdown, which some women have letdowns and they can feel them, others cannot. Basically, a letdown is like a little tingle in the breast, and almost like little pins and needles, it feels like a little bit. But once you feel your letdown, you're going to want to reduce your speed to a lower, just a little bit lower. And then as you continue to pump, you're going to continue to reduce your speed to mimic the baby's suckling patterns. So a baby starts out with fast suckles because they're always hungry and starving, and then as they continue to feed, they slow down, and it's slow, drawn-out suckles. You want to make sure that you're pumping at least 15 minutes. And I say at least 15 minutes because that's the minimum amount of pumping time. I don't recommend you stop at 15 minutes. You should always pump until you see no more milk coming out of your breast, and then give it a couple minutes after, because it's all about supply and demand. So if we're completely ridding our body of the milk supply, we're going to produce more, and that's our goal as moms. And then the next thing with pumping is you want to reduce stress. I have a lot of moms come in and say, I want to get the pump that, is the most convenient, and it makes it easiest for me and all of that. And sometimes I tell moms, okay, you know what, we need to take this moment for just you and reduce all the stress that you have. So don't be texting while you're on the phone, or don't be, texting or doing. I have one mom that does squats while she's pumping, which I give her credit. That's awesome. But we want to make sure you're taking time for you to also relax and reduce the amount of stress, because stress can affect milk supply as well. And then the next thing is drink to thirst. There's a lot of questions about how much water do I drink, or how much should I not drink. Drink to thirst really means that you should drink when you're thirsty. You need to drink immediately, and then continue to drink on demand when you feel thirsty. Drinking too much water can actually reduce supply as well. So you need to have a happy medium, and making sure that you're able to have that happy medium. So I recommend 8 glasses of 8 ounce glasses 8 times a day is what I normally recommend. That's about 64 ounces of water, and if you can get close to that, I think it's great. When you're nursing or when you're even pumping, it's a great time to get that water in. And then also to help you and to make things a little easier, as moms always say, a hands-free bra is a great option to have, because you can put your flanges inside, and instead of texting on the phone or doing other things, you can actually massage your breast as needed to help get that milk kind of flowing a little bit faster. So that's one extra thing I do tell moms to get. And then also buying an extra set of flanges so that you're not washing your flanges every single time you pump. You always have one that's clean. So you can put one in the dishwasher and then have one that's clean. That's also another benefit. And it's great, for starting pumping to make things a little easier. And then next we're going to actually go on to the next topic, which is also extremely important. When should I start pumping? And this is a question that I am very careful with, because I usually encourage moms to breastfeed as long as possible. And I have a lot of moms, especially in our society today, where I need the pump. They say, I need the pump right now. I've got a pump. The baby was just born yesterday. I really caution moms as a lactation specialist, because it's most important that we're getting the latch correct with the baby rather than pumping. So making sure that we're getting, first of all, the skin-to-skin contact with baby, making sure that baby is getting the correct latch, making sure that baby's getting down breastfeeding first before we're initiating a bottle. So if you can, I usually tell moms, try for 2 months trying to just breastfeed. If for some reason you have to go back to work early, then we can talk about other options, and I'll go through that a little bit in the next few slides. But we really need to try to breastfeed as long as possible. Now, if you are going back to work, 2 weeks prior to returning to work is a great start. So, some moms will start pumping after that first morning feed. So the first feed for baby, usually there's more milk in your body because the baby slept through the night, you slept through the night, hopefully, and you have a little more milk. So feeding baby, letting baby, drink off of both sides, not limiting baby. Some people pull baby off after one side and then put them on the other. That's not beneficial. And if you watched the last webinar, the lactation consultant also spoke about that as well. It's extremely important that you let baby feed as needed. So if he pulls himself off, that's great. Then you can move to the other side. But making sure you're not limiting baby, letting him or her feed, and then pumping for 10-15 minutes after is extremely helpful to kind of get that supply up and start storing. Pumping every 2 to 3 hours after baby has fed. So most babies, we recommend feeding every 2 to 3 hours. So pumping after each feed also will kind of get the milk supply up. And then the first week back to work, trying to go back on a Thursday or Friday. That will alleviate stress for you, mom, and dad, or you, dad, and baby, I'm sorry. And then it will also allow you, to get kind of a trial start. So Thursday and Friday, you got the weekend to recoup a little bit, and then come back on Monday. Or even going back part-time is also beneficial, because it is really hard to when you're breastfeeding to kind of figure out the balance. And then last but not least is, when you start initiating a bottle, there can be nipple confusion. So it's extremely important. I had NICU babies, so I had to use a bottle. And it's extremely important to use a bottle that mimics mom's breast as close as possible. And I really liked the bottle that was just shown earlier, because it really does mimic the breast, going in and out with the suckling pattern. That was great. It was great to see that. So, getting a bottle that is actually like mom's breast, and then also pacing the baby when you're feeding them. This will also help when baby is being fed bottle throughout the day while you're gone. If you're able to pace the baby, it will allow baby to not be frustrated when he goes back to breast. Because when you think about a breastfeeding situation, it's usually between 15 to 45 minutes for a breastfeeding for each breastfeeding session. And a bottle is usually given within 5 minutes. When you think about how that affects baby's tummy, how it affects breathing patterns, it really confuses baby a little bit. So pacing means just kind of giving the bottle to the baby, pulling it out, giving the bottle back, pulling it out, making sure baby is breathing effectively and also able to effectively, go back to breast and not cause problems for mom. And then handling and storage of milk, and I think I'm getting long-winded, so I'm going to try to go to the points. Handling and storage of milk, pumped or expressed, store in small amounts. So 1 to 2 ounces is easy to avoid waste. Sometimes storing those in freezer containers or almost like ice cube trays, that's extremely beneficial. Labeling each batch of milk with date and time. This is extremely important, especially if you have a NICU baby, because you usually have a lot of milk in the beginning, and then making sure that you're giving the oldest milk first so that it doesn't spoil. So labeling each milk with a date and time. And then as far as storage, room temperature, the milk can be out for about 4 to 6 hours. Cooler, about 24 hours, as long as you have ice packs. And the refrigerator, 3 to 8 days. And freezer, 6 to 12 months. And this will depend on what type of freezer you do have. Sometimes a deep freeze, you can do a little bit longer. And then thawed breast milk, used within 24 hours. So that's the handling and storage of milk, pumped or expressed. Okay, and then storage options. We talked a little bit about the freezer container. So the milk trays, which are shown on the slide, those are great. Those are my favorite, and I usually recommend those for most moms. You can also do the breast pump storage bags or storage containers, which we're all familiar with. Medela and Hygieia both have great containers for that. And then it looks like, there we go. Keeping milk production stable, the magic number. Draining your breast the same amount of times that you would drain your breast if you were at home. Drained breast makes milk faster, so it's all about supply and demand. And then just continue your skin-to-skin contact with baby and continue baby wearing. And I think, baby wearing is extremely beneficial, and you know, I wish I could talk to you more about that, but just making sure that skin-to-skin contact, which for those of you who don't know, is just basically baby being naked in, you know, a diaper and then putting baby to breast with mom or dad. I recommend with dad too. My husband carried my baby around all the time with doing skin-to-skin contact. So just, you know, allowing baby to feel comfortable, and skin-to-skin contact also initiates breastfeeding much easier and also encourages breastfeeding. And then, as I mentioned before, drinking to thirst. So drinking when you're thirsty, and then just breastfeed an awful lot. And if you run into complications, you know, always see a lactation consultant or specialist to help you meet the needs of going back to work, because it can be challenging. And, you know, really in the first I would say 2 months back to work, that's really when most moms struggle with breastfeeding, and they either decide they're going to stay with it or stop it. So it's extremely important that you have a plan in place and that you're getting help through those first 2 months. And I think that's pretty much it. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Nicole, maybe if we could put the screen back on Michelle's smiling face there, I will pose some questions because we have some coming in on the YouTube page. So our first actually comes from Meredith, and she says, Michelle, I have been back to work since February and been pumping once a day, 3 times a week. After a virus last week that left me dehydrated, my milk supply has decreased. What can I do to increase my milk supply?
Okay, and this can kind of be a loaded question. And if you want, it might be beneficial if I kind of go through Sarah to answer some of those questions, because it kind of depends on, you know, if you're on medication, so you were pumping, were you discarding milk? That all kind of comes into play. So it's kind of a hard question to ask without having a little more detail. But, you know, I think just getting back to, you know, are you breastfeeding 8 to 16 times a day? Maybe bringing in a few more pumping sessions to kind of get your supply up. Are you getting rest? Make sure you're drinking your water if you are dehydrated. And then, you know, then it would be more detailed questions kind of about how's baby, how often is baby eating, how often are the feeding sessions, maybe throwing in a few extra feeding sessions, like I said, in pumping. You know, that's like a starting point. So more pumping sessions, more feeding sessions, and then I am more happy to, you know, go in detail with this individual more, or let Sarah, you know, I can let Sarah know a few more things we could do, but I'd have to have more detail about the situation, I think, to answer that effectively.
Great. Well, thank you for the offer of follow-up, and the person that asked that question from the slide that had your contact information should be able to grab that there. And Meredith, you can also reach out to Nicole or I, and we can help point you in the right direction for some more specific advice if needed. So thank you. The next question comes from Toddler Mom, who says, thank you for the presentation. Can you tell me what are some strategies if a baby won't take a bottle? I'm worried about that as I return to work.
And this question, I get this a lot because, you know, some babies, they do not like bottles, especially if they have been on the breast without a bottle being implemented or initiated with them in the first couple months. So it can be a real challenge. And I think, you know, sometimes I tell moms to start giving a bottle once throughout the day, 2 weeks before going back to work, because of this happening. So I think just slowly, you know, giving the bottle to baby like once a day, then twice a day, because I have had moms at like 6 months where they cannot leave the baby because they've only been on the breast. So I think starting to initiate that bottle slowly with them, not forcing it on them because that will be an aversion, they won't want anything to do with it, but slowly, you know, initiating the bottle and giving that to them on a daily basis, and then slowly working your way up to, you know, a couple times a day. That's a great start to that, and then seeing how baby responds.
Great, thank you. So this is a question that I came up with actually, because this is one that a lot of my mom friends have talked about when starting out with pumping and going back to work, which is how much, when you're sending your child to daycare, how much pumped milk to send your child with, because if you're feeding on the breast, you're not really tracking how many ounces. So how do you know what your child is going to need? That sort of anxiety, I'm not going to send enough milk.
Yeah, and I think this is also a great question. I have a lot of moms come in because there's a lot of, some places require you to bring so much milk. So, like if it's certain daycare places, they require so much breast milk each time, you know, child comes. I encourage moms to first start out with breastfeeding prior to dropping baby off at home, and then if you have time to breastfeed again once you're at the site or once you're at your caregivers, because that eliminates how much milk you actually have to pump during the day and how much you have to store. So that's the first step that I would recommend for moms. The second step is, on average, depending on how old baby is, 2 to 3 ounces, most often sometimes 3 to 4 ounces, depending on how much baby eats, is an average feeding. So anywhere between 2 to 4 ounces. Anything more than that is really too much at one feeding in the beginning days and even in the first few months. So if you figure out, how many times do you breastfeed in a day, and then figure out how many bottles you actually need, then kind of go from there, and that will kind of give you a guidance of how much you need to be pumping and how much milk you need to actually send.
That's great. Thank you so much. I wanted to interject just a quick moment and go back one question, Sarah, just to the last one about the nipple confusion. And I know this is something that Priska and I had talked about, and I'm wondering, Priska, if you could just give maybe one example that you have heard of in your line of business, because this is basically why you started your bottles, right? And so I know you had shared with me before, but could you share with everyone just quickly something to answer that question that you've come across?
Yeah, absolutely. We also do get a lot of emails and, I'm losing my baby to the bottle and so on. What this bottle actually does, and I created this based on my own experience and a very common experience, is that most of the bottles have a very long nipple and the baby tends to just hold on to the tip. This bottle, because it has a short tip, it actually sort of forces the baby a little bit to latch on the areola part, to have that wide latch, just like breastfeeding latch. And then when he begins suction, then this expands. So I've had some trials happening about 1.5 years ago where we had moms that have never been able to establish a breastfeeding relationship, and they've been pumping and feeding with the bottle. After feeding with the Bear bottle for about a day or two, they put the baby at the breast, and they were able to reinstate breastfeeding even after 3 or 4 months of the baby's life. So that was pretty encouraging, and how to see that the bottle is actually helping to reinstate breastfeeding. It's great. We also had some cases, just like what we had in the presentation, that mom is going back to work and the babies are not taking any bottles. They tend to like this nipple because of the similarity. We had a lot of emails that mom said, thank you, my baby finally took this bottle. Other babies who just simply do not like anything, too. So I guess, it will take a lot of trial and error for the mom, but certainly this nipple helps minimizing the confusion. Also, this bottle works with suction and not gravity. Most of the other bottles, you have to turn the bottle upside down to feed the baby. This bottle can feed the baby in upright position. And what that does is requires the baby to create suction, much more like breastfeeding, to drink. If the baby stops the suction, no milk is going to come out. So the baby really needs to exercise the muscles, just like breastfeeding, to begin feeding from this bottle.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Priska. Sure. I did notice when I looked at your website, you had a great picture of a baby on there, and I was amazed at how the nose and the chin were touching your bottle, whereas most bottles you don't get that, and you do get that with the breast, obviously. It's hard to describe, but go check it out on our website. That's awesome, so thank you for that. Sure. Sarah, did you have anything else we wanted to say quick?
One more question that came in, if we have time, for Michelle on how much, this kind of goes hand in hand with the last conversation about how much milk to send with a child to daycare. How much do you recommend storing up in advance of going back to work? Which I'll just add as an aside, is a helpful thing I definitely experienced, because then you don't feel the pressure like, I better make the exact right amount of milk today or else I'm not going to have enough tomorrow. So how much would you recommend having frozen before going back to work?
I think to alleviate a little bit of stress, that's kind of a tough question because each one has, kind of a different idea of how much they should have. I would say probably at least a couple days, because then you're like a couple days ahead. And I'm very careful at answering that too, because not everyone produces the same. So I don't want to like say, have this much amount and then you be defeated. So just making sure you have a couple days stored up, because then you'll always be a couple days ahead. If you can have more than that, even more beneficial, but at least having a couple days stored up so that all right, first 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, I'm good to go. And as long as I pump and I stay on my schedule every 2 to 3 hours, I should be able to replenish that, and we're good to go. That's what I would say. It's just a couple days to start out, and if you have more, excellent. Great job, Mom.
That's great. Yeah, for me it was, in the beginning, kind of getting back to being used to being at work. If I had a meeting that cropped up and I was long between pumping sessions, I had relief knowing I had just a little bit stored up, that if I was a little behind, or like as you said, even that stress of returning to work and maybe the supply dipping, that helped a lot. I think that's all as far as the questions that are posed now, but just a reminder that people can keep asking questions on the YouTube page on an ongoing basis, even after the end of this live event, and we would be happy to keep following up. Nicole, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. I just want to take a quick moment to thank our guest speakers today, Michelle, for giving us that great information. I hope that all the moms out there just can have a little bit of sense of relief. Your breast pump can kind of be a scary thing at first, and I think you gave us some great information on how to get started and how to keep it up, and thank you so much for taking the time to do that for us.
Thank you.
The same with you, Priska. Thank you for sharing your wonderful bottles with us. Also, thank you for being so generous as to give one away as well. We enjoyed having you here today, having you both here, so thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. And for all of you listening out there, we love hearing from you. And you know that sometimes the best conversations take place after the webinar. So please leave your comments, leave your questions below, and share the link with any new or expecting mom that you think could benefit from this. And we look forward to bringing more great information to you. Our next event is scheduled for Monday, June 2nd, as you can see on the slide. The next topic is Intro to Feeding and Baby Solids. Nutrition, making your own food, allergies, and much, much more. So sign up if you have not already registered to get emails from us. You can do that. Also, stay tuned to our social media, to Sarah Wells Bags and also to Nizaware, and we will keep you updated. And I believe that this registration will start for this next Monday, and or so. So stay tuned to our website and keep in touch with us. And thank you again for being here with us today.
Thanks, everybody.